Okay, I thought I'd do a little video tour of my garden so far. It's a work in progress, but this bed we got mulched today. It's got a pepper and a chocolate cherry tomato. And then over here is where I planted radishes, but then they got a hot mess because I was busy. So we'll see what happens. Then this bed is peppers and also a few other things. So I've got, I'll have to get down so you can see it, but if you see those little tiny, looks like grass, I've got them in various places. Those are bunching onions, which are kind of like a scallion, and we really like them. And then I've got some, my bell peppers, got a bunch of bell peppers. And then right in the middle, I have one indeterminate tomato, which is a giant crimson tomato, which is a really interesting tomato, and I only have the one because MI Gardener, which is like a vlogger and company in Port Huron, he bought at an auction a shadow box that had a bunch of old seed packets in it. Come to find out, he took it apart and there were seeds still in them, and one of them was the giant crimson tomato, which is an heirloom variety that is no longer produced. Nobody's producing it, growing it, so it had kind of died out. So he found this packet, so he got some to germinate, and he's been growing them for many years, like I think 5 years or something, to produce enough tomatoes to save seeds to have enough to actually sell. So this was the first year he sold some seeds, and you got 5 seeds for $5, and they have a fairly low germination rate, I guess. So I planted all 5 and only one turned into a tomato plant. So here's my one crimson, giant crimson tomato plant. So I'm hoping to save seeds from it. And then next to it, that little patch is Swiss chard. So I've got some Swiss chard in between because it likes shade. So once the peppers and the tomato get big, it'll give it some shade. And then I've got more bunching onions, a different variety on this side of the bed, and I've got it all mulched. And then over here is garlic that was planted last year. There's like 3 different varieties. And then I planted my collard greens here. These are Bates collard greens, that's the variety. Over here are, along the fence, are my peas, and for some reason in the end of this bed and the beginning of that bed, no peas grew, even though I planted them. So I've planted some cucumber seeds to see if they'll come up and trellis on the fence since there's no peas. But I have peas all around here. And they're getting pretty big, so hopefully they'll blossom soon. And then over here in a grow bag, I have a single pepper plant, just a variety. I bought a plant at Azure called Bulgarian carrot, and it's a spicy pepper, so I just kind of planted it in a grow bag, and we'll see what happens. And that's just junk. And then behind that is my sorrel plant, which looked like it was totally dead and usually comes back every year, and I thought, oh, it's not coming back this year. But actually it seeded itself everywhere, and so it's got a whole bunch of babies in the box, outside of the box, and in the bed next to it. So I'm gonna have to dig out some of them because I don't really want it everywhere. But it's called red-veined sorrel. So when it gets bigger, I'll harvest it. It tastes mighty tasty, and it's pretty. So then over here we have kale planted. Some kale had reseeded and then went to seed, so I pulled it out and planted some new ones. And then as you can see, we have little sorrel plants just growing up voluntarily, like everywhere, so I have to get those out. And then this is some Swiss chard next to some kale that must have volunteered because I didn't plant it there. And then I've got a different variety of kale here. This is, the one that looks like this is dwarf blue kale, and the one that looks like this is red Russian kale. And then I think some of the kale is probably volunteers from last year, so I don't know. And then over here I planted some basil seeds, but I don't even know if they're coming up. So far it looks like it's just weeds, so we'll have to see. I may end up planting something else here because it's all weedy. I have to weed and mulch still. And here's some more kale. And then I planted 2 different kinds of zucchini. One I got nothing. This year was bad because it got a cold snap, and the ones that hadn't sprouted, I think it killed the seeds. And I got this gray zucchini. I got 1 plant, so I planted it over here in the corner so it can kind of sprawl over here since there's kind of an open space and a lot of weeds that I keep weeding. And then over here is some tomatoes. These are indeterminate, which is why we have the tall stakes. So I have Brandywine and Actually, these are yellow brandywine. So I have 2 yellow brandywine, 2 red brandywine, which are just brandywine, and 2 pink brandywine. And then I have a dinosaur kale I planted in the corner, and then 2 Cherokee purple tomatoes. And so then we'll walk over here. We have more garlic, and I stuck 1 pepper in where for some reason there was a little space, so I put it there. This is called Doghouse garlic. The company, these little ones here, there's 2 varieties, the little ones and then the bigger ones. So the little ones are called Doghouse variety, and I guess it was kind of a funny thing. The garlic got planted at the place where I ordered my bulbs. It's like an organic farm, I think in Wisconsin. And it got mixed up and they didn't know what it was. So they called it Doghouse, so we don't really know what the variety is. But anyways, and then this is Georgian Crystal, which is kind of like like an elephant type garlic, gives big heads supposedly. So we'll try that. And then here's more garlic. This is music garlic, which is another hardneck variety. It's the one we plant quite a bit of. And then I've got some Roma tomatoes here. I've got Roma, Martino's Roma, and an Indigo Rose, which are all determinate. And then I stuck a cayenne pepper plant in there just because there was room. And then I don't know what this is, so I'm leaving it, but it just grew here voluntarily. So it's either a weed or a flower. So we're gonna see what grows, and then if it's a weed, I will get rid of it. Anyways, over here I have peppers, hot banana, and cayenne. And then against the fence are my pickling cubes. So I have plants on this side and plants on the other, and they trellis up. There's like an arch. Back up a little. There's an arch, and they'll trellis up along the arch. And then I did plant some peppers over here. I have ancho and I don't know what the other one is because there's no tag anymore. Maybe they're all. Oh, I think they're the hot banana possibly. I don't know, or the sweet banana, one of the 2. Anyways, I have a couple of bush beans, which are the only ones that germinated in my several attempts. So it is what it is. And then along this arch are pole beans. So I have 1 variety on this side, which is French climbing, and the other side is Blue Lake. And then over here I have a cayenne, and I'm probably going to plant some beets here. And then I have tomatillos in all my potato towers because we decided not to do potatoes this year. I just didn't get seed potatoes, and then all the stuff going on, you need to plant them early, and we were busy, so I'm using them for my tomatillos because my tomatillos get big and bushy, and so it's nice to have like a cage. So I figured, well, I'll just plant them here. So all the tomato cages have tomatillos in them. And then here I planted in just a little grow bag some anise hyssop, which is a perennial herb, and it flowers. So hopefully it'll live and keep growing every year. We'll see. I just planted it. And then over here, like I said, are the other pole beans, and then these are my crooked neck summer squash that can migrate over into the walkway. And then these are our new beds. And I got this one planted with some Roma tomatoes and a couple of jalapeno pepper plants, some chard, and some kohlrabi. And then at the other end over here is my zucchini that I bought plants from Wild Hair Farms. So there's 4 zucchini plants that can go into this little triangular space, and all this grass is going to have cardboard and then mulch. So I'm ordering the mulch later in the week, and Jeremy's bringing home cardboard from work today because we ran out. So and then over here, so this new bed I haven't planted yet, but it's going to be some indeterminate tomatoes that I still have to plant, which are San Maranzo, Lungo number 2, and Black Plum. So that's what this bed's going to be. And then probably some carrots, some basil, and maybe some bok choy that likes the shade of the tomatoes. Over here, I took out the zucchini and put it over in the other bed and planted some indeterminate tomatoes that I got Indigo Blue Beauty and a cherry tomato, and then I put 2 delicious tomatoes, which are just like slicer tomatoes. And then there's a rogue garlic from last year that sprouted. We had garlic here last year, and apparently this one decided to grow this year, so we left it. And then all the way over here in this new bed that we just planted is another kind of collard greens called Champion, and then giant kohlrabi. I have like 10 giant kohlrabi. And then over here is Roma tomatoes, and then over here were some small sugar pumpkins that I split with a friend. There was a 4-pack. I gave her 2, and I've never grown pumpkins, so this is just gonna see, but I figure it can kind of migrate over into this walkway on each side and go into the yard if it needs to through the fence. So anyways, that is our new expanded garden. Hopefully I didn't make you too dizzy with that. And then this little corner right now will end up probably with squash plants, but I'm thinking in the future I can put some grow bags and pots and things once it's all mulched and there's not grass. So that's what we've got so far. Hopefully later this week we'll get the mulch and finish planting, but I'm pretty tired for today. So we moved 3 yards, or most of 3 yards of dirt. The boys helped with that, and I helped, and then I planted, and then I mulched leaves of 3 beds. So all right, well, that's a little garden tour. That's just our main garden. I will do all the stuff on my patio in a separate video. Bye. Okay, so my other garden beds, I'm going to do a few things. So here, which hasn't been mulched, if you can see, this stuff is romaine lettuce. And then here is some Swiss chard. There's several plants of Swiss chard. And then over here are 2 tomato plants. Black Krim tomato and Brad's Atomic grape tomato, which is a new variety, and I seeded it and I got 2 plants. So I have one and I gave one to a friend. I had 3 plants. I gave some to a friend, and I have this one that I planted. I've heard they're like really colorful. They look like cool colors, and they're like a little grape tomato. I don't even know where the plant is now. I hope it didn't die. Oh, I think it did. Maybe. Anyway, I have another one I can replant. But my daughter wanted that one. So anyways, and then over here is my peony inside of a bunch of ferns because it gets lost in this mess. But it's so pretty. I love it. And then this is a hot mess where we keep the hose reel. And then over here, which we haven't gotten in here, and the dog did. The dog must have got in here. I'm assuming it's the dog. This is garlic, and they stompled it, so we'll see how it goes. But it's starting to scape. This one is, so I've got to cut the scapes this week. And then I need to weed at this end of it, and I can probably plant some things there. And then I've got pots. I've got basil here with some seeded stuff that hasn't grown yet, some other herbs. This is a pineapple sage that's struggling. We'll see what happens. This is my mint that's just coming back. This is a strawberry pot that I put one strawberry on top. The rest of it is all herbs. So I've got like oregano and thyme and lemon verbena and pineapple sage and a bunch of stuff in here that'll grow. And then in the winter I can take it in and have herbs all winter. And then in this earth box I have peppers. These are mini bell peppers. I grew a couple of these plants last year and I absolutely love them. They are literally little mini bell peppers. They're kind of like squat and fat. And I pickled them stuffed with cabbage, and they are so good. So my husband was like, grow more. So I have a whole bunch of them this year that I ordered and planted. So I have 2 here. Here's a little tiny pepper already growing. So they get a little bit bigger, but then they turn color. This one is, oh, that's not it. These are red, I guess. I don't know where the type. Oh, this one's right here. This is the chocolate one, so it's kind of like a brownish purple, and then that one's a mini red bell pepper. And then I put some seeds in here for cutting celery, which is like an herb that has a celery flavor, but it's just leaves, so they should be sprouting up. I just did it the other day. So, and then this is an Armenian cucumber that's going to trellis up this grow box. And this is some basil from last year that apparently reseeded itself, so I left it. And then here's another chocolate mini bell pepper in a grow bag. And we just put the watering system in today, so every morning and evening it will run for like 10 minutes and give it a little spritz of water. And then, although it's raining now, so I probably don't need it to. This is a hot habanero. I bought one this year because Ben loves hot peppers and he wants me to make salsa with hotter peppers. So I have that. This is my peppermint. The other one is spearmint. Then this is another mini red bell pepper. And then over here I planted some seeds, and I don't remember what, so we'll wait till it comes up, but it might have been basil. Anyways, this is chocolate mint that is struggling to come back, but there's a few little plants coming through, so we'll see. And here's another mini bell pepper. This one's red. And then this pepper is a new one to me. I've never grown it before, but I got it from Redbird Farms. It's a Romanian, and it's already got a bunch of peppers on it. They get a little bit bigger than this, and then they turn like a red color when they're ripe. So, should be interesting. It's a sweet bell pepper. And then this is a mix of purple and green basil that I planted seeds, and they're coming up, and a tomatillo, and a kale, and a marigold. I plant marigolds everywhere because it helps with the bugs. And then over here is the one little eggplant for Jay, because he loves eggplant and I don't. And then I have celery that I planted there. And then this is my ground cherry plants that come back every year in this tub. So they're coming back, and they will produce a bunch of ground cherries. And then over here is my strawberries, which I netted because something was eating all the ripe ones, so I'll probably pick them tomorrow. I see there's a couple that are like pretty red. And my asparagus that's done for the season. And we didn't really harvest much because it's like was, I think, planted just like I think this is the third year, just starting the third year. So I'm gonna wait and harvest it next year because it's really filling out now. And the row behind it isn't doing as well, so I kind of wanted to leave it and see what happens. But I think next year I'll be able to harvest. And some more strawberries, and then my rhubarb, and then the bane of my existence. They are very pretty, but they spread everywhere, and I've been digging them out all season, and I'm not done, and I need to really probably take them out. But it's lily of the valley, and they're very invasive, so I have a whole bunch to get rid of if anybody wants any. And then a weed that I need to dig out. And then these are my red raspberries that I transplanted from my dad's house a couple years ago, and they're getting really nice and lush this year. But a few grew over where I don't want them, like right here, so I'm gonna have to dig those out and get rid of them. This is my oregano that's coming back, and then a new one that I bought that's hot and spicy, and some seeds I planted over here. And then these are my herbs, which I still need to kind of weed, but there's sage and lemon thyme and my chives. And then that bush over there past the chives is a currant bush that my friend Lynn gave me. She gave me two. One died, and this one is, I think, 2 or 3 years old now, and it's got a bunch of berries on it. So we're waiting to see if they're red or black, because she gave me both, and I don't know which died and which survived. So whichever one it is, she's going to give me the opposite, because they like to cross-pollinate, helps them. So we're kind of waiting to see if they're red or black. It's a mystery. And then this is our horseradish that flowered, so we'll probably harvest some in the fall. And this is a weed that we need to cut down. It's this tree that just keeps coming back from the neighbors, so we are going to have to cut that down. And then I have some like daylilies and such here. And then there's more asparagus. You can see the little fronds. We planted this, I think, last year. So this one isn't as old. Those ones are a little bit older because we had so many crowns, so we planted them, and then we came over here and then we ran out, so we bought more. But I harvested a little bit of it, but not much. So next year, hopefully, I can harvest it. And then this looks like a geranium, marigold, that transplanted itself from something. So I left it. And then a bunch of weeds that I need to pull up. But since it rained, it's a little bit easier to pull up this grass. I'll just pull it up and shake it off. So anyway, I still have a lot of weeding to do. But that's the backyard. And then we have a few things in the front yard, but that's the majority of it. So anyway, I need to harvest the rest of my rhubarb and either freeze it or make something, because we love rhubarb. Well, that's my garden tour for now. Bye. I did forget, I have a couple other earth beds. I'm going to turn it this way. No, maybe not. Sorry. I have romaine lettuce and some kohlrabi growing here, and one little chocolate mini bell pepper. And then over here I have a bunch of lettuce that's filling in nicely, and hopefully we'll be able to harvest in like another week. So those are my last 2 earth boxes.